Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Captiva Erosion Prevention District February 2023 meeting. Daniel, can you please take roll call?
Yes, present we have Chairman Walter, Vice Chairman Sylvia, Secretary Laird. Not present are Mr. Pyle and Mr. Maville.
So we have a quorum.
Yes.
Outstanding. Item 3, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as written and dispense of the reading of minutes from January 2023?
I so move.
Second?
You can second it, Bob.
Yep, I second
I'll
it.
second then. All
Okay.
right, John, second. Any discussion? Approved. General public comments, Daniel, anything?
If anybody has any public comment, please raise your hand and I'll allow you to speak. I'm seeing no hands.
Thank you, Daniel. Anyone changes to today's agenda?
I see no reason to change.
Daniel, you're going to go through our submissions under your administrative update?
Yes, there's a portion for local appropriation under the Becker update.
Okay, cool.
Financial reports?
I believe Jason is on the call. Jason?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we did receive 244,000 of ad valorem in January. Should receive one more big payment in February, probably about the same amount. That'll get us close to our budget for ad valorem for the year. Received 5.2 million in local grant revenue and just under 700,000 from special assessment payoffs and regular payments from the tax collector. No unusual expenses for the month. We're up to 7 million in the capital projects Bank of the Islands account. So Mr. Pyle and I talked about transferring some money over to the investment account to buy treasury bills. With the money that's in the investment account, we bought 2.9 million of a treasury bill that matures in April 2024, and that will net 163,000 of interest income.
Do we have to pay? Are we all paid up for Aptum and Beach Renourishment? I'm sure I'm screwed up here and confused.
Yes. Yeah, Great Lakes has been paid in full. And we have been paying the Aptum bills as they come in. Nothing large outstanding that I know of, unless you know anything different, Daniel.
No, we get invoiced regularly for them. We've paid every invoice that's come in so far.
So is this $7 million, if I got it right, that's our money? Sort of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So we were going to move a portion of that over to make some interest income, because right now we can buy treasury notes at around 4.5%. And the interest on the note that we owe is, I believe, 2.25%. The first note payment will be due in May. So we're going to leave enough to cover that in the checking account.
And what's that total bond note? What is that? The amount?
I believe 18 million is the total. Let me.
Thank you, Bob.
Pull that up.
So
Quick
you'll tell-
note,
how
Mr. Pyle has joined us.
so how much money do we owe? like for the bond, if we have an $18 million bond we have to pay off,
Yes,
where is that in these numbers?
It's on the balance sheet.
Balance sheet?
Correct, Jason?
I don't see it there.
no, the balance sheets are on the modified accrual basis of accounting, which is for government agencies. Note payables aren't on that. They're on a full accrual basis. So when we get the audit report, they'll be on the full accrual statements, but on the fund level statements, it's not shown on there, just like capital projects. Like depreciation isn't shown under modified accrual basis of accounting.
All right, so to your point though, if we can get 4%, call it, on a note, and we're only paying 2.25, we're ahead of the game.
Correct. So we bought one treasury bill that matures next April. That will be used to cover the second note principal payment. And we're planning on buying 2 more treasury bills that mature in 2 and 3 years. So we would be covered on the first 4 note payments.
What's the penalty on those if we wanted to use them earlier or get them back, for lack of a better term?
You could sell them. They're freely traded, and we can sell them if we want to. If we hold it to maturity, we are locked into that 4 or 3.9% rate or whatever. Isn't that right, Jason?
What percent did you say?
Between 3.5% and 4%.
I believe the one that we just purchased was 4.6.
Yeah. So at the time that we raised the money and sold the bonds, the interest rate was about 0. So we just held it in cash for that period of time. And now that rates have gone up tremendously in the last year, that 0 to 4 to 4.5%, we are, as Bob says, we are ahead of the game.
Certainly sounds like it.
We've seen a bond rate like that or bond rate like that for, my God, forever.
No, and I just checked. It is 18 million principal with an interest rate of 2.12.
Is it reasonable to have someplace in our financial report how much money we owe on bonds, or is that stupid?
Yeah, I can add it if you like.
And we should, you agree.
Okay, so I would like to know that so that because it sounds like, oh my goodness, we have 10 million bucks or $7 or $10 million, but in fact we don't.
And that number will be reflected in the annual report that our outside auditors are doing now. When that annual report comes out, it will state all of the obligations of the CEPD.
Okay,
Correct.
if we could just sort of put it someplace that makes sense to financial people in our financial report, so.
Yeah, well, if you read the annual audited report, that's where you'll find that number.
Well, could we have it in the monthly, or is that doesn't make sense either?
Yeah, I'll add it. That's fine.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay, so when do we start paying? You said April 2023?
No, May 1st is the first principal payment due, and it is 2.6 million.
Okay, there you go.
We have made one interest payment. Interest is due every November. Principal and interest every May.
Yeah, I would really, these are it's a lot of money. If we could track track really simply what we're doing, what we're paying off, and how much in debt we are, et cetera, I'd like that.
That's a good conversation, I agree. Daniel, where are we with the parking opening back up? I mean, I know I'd feel a lot better getting $50,000, $60,000 a month reoccurring again.
Let's, one of the updates that we have coming up regarding the Allison Haggard Beach parking lot, but I can go ahead and talk about that
No, no.
now.
No, we can wait. Let's just go through the agenda then.
Oh, then one other question here. I was trying to read, I was reading this and we call it residual. So I was on general fund budget performance summary, the first one. And we have residual budget. What's the residual budget? What's residual mean here?
How much is left from the expected?
The annual budget, what we spent to date, and then the residual. Is that what you're saying, Jason?
Yes, the difference between annual and actual year to date, correct?
So actual year to date is 427. Our annual is 650, so we have this much left.
Yeah, and I expect over 200 of that will come in February.
What line item are you looking at? I don't have it in front of me.
He's
I was
referring to
looking
the ad valorem revenue.
at, okay, and so just a second. So we've gotten $427,000, $100,000 in, whatever. And then we've got 216 that we budgeted. So we're ahead by 210, but you expect that we'll get the rest of it, the residual, in next month, correct? That what you
Yeah,
told me?
correct, because it's based on when the tax collector receives payments. And so taxes, I believe, are due April 1st this year. So and to get the discount, people tend to pay early. So we receive those earlier in the year usually.
So the roadmap of the budget on when we thought things were coming in, is that not very accurate because of the hurricane, or?
We're a couple months behind.
But it looks like we're ahead. We've got the actual year to date of $427,000 and the budget was 216. So we're ahead.
It's just annualized. So that's just.
So you didn't do a real roadmap, you did a straight month by month annualization?
Right.
And that is the way we've been doing it the last several years, is just putting out the annual budget and spreading it over 12 months.
We didn't do that with expenses though, correct?
With expenses? No, we did the expenses based on what it's been in the past and then made adjustments. But as far as the revenue, we just assumed that it will be spread out during the year. Some months will be higher than other months.
So the income, the budget income, when it has any date associated with it, is meaningless in some respects. It's not meaningless, but it doesn't.
I don't look at the residual that much.
You don't look at residual, and
So
you
if you're
don't
looking
look,
at the monthly figure, it's the total annual budget divided by 12. That's what's in the monthly
that's
number.
right. But so if we look at actual versus budgeted, it doesn't mean anything other than we're ahead of a straight line roadmap.
Yeah, we could be
Timing.
ahead or behind. The main thing is that how are we doing versus the year ago? And if it looks like we're getting more revenue and less expense, or vice versa, we'll look into that particular line item. But the general fund is the thing we watch the closest, because that's the amount that the taxpayers have agreed to pay for, and any capital project, any renourishment that's done, that's all under the capital budget.
Okay, so would it be hard to have a roadmap based on other years? Or is that too difficult and it's not worth the effort rather than an annualized roadmap for budget?
Well, we have a year to date compared with a year ago, year to date. And every month, we look at the monthly revenue and compare that to what it was a year before. Just
So-
The reality
why
is in
don't-
2023, though, the year over year isn't going to be accurate because we're billing for the nourishment. So you'd have to compare that to 2014 or 15, correct, Daniel? Or Ralph? I'm sorry.
Yeah. The year that we plan for renourishment, we will make adjustments to the capital budget. But we don't change that. That doesn't necessarily have an impact on the general fund budget.
Well, so why don't we try having the budgeted number on the income to reflect what we think is going to happen rather than straight line it?
We can do that for next year's budget, but I mean, the budget's written now.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's just like, I would like that.
Well, to the extent that the general fund budget is fairly routine every year. There's no special things there unless the Board of Commissioners decide to, pull out a certain amount of money to make some improvement to the general fund revenue generation. In other words, if there is a change in the ad valorem tax, or if we decide that we want to have a bigger budget for resiliency, that would go into the general fund that particular year. And we try to run the general fund with a nice income over expenditures, and whatever that amount is helps offset the capital expenses that are done with and one thing to keep in mind now, I'll be interested, Daniel, in you and John taking a look at this, but a lot of people don't realize that all that sand removal that they're looking at is actually going to be paid by the county and not by the CEPD. So there's various sources of revenue that Daniel and John are looking at. So this will be a very unusual year. The final numbers for this year are going to look very different than what we planned on.
Okay. But for next year, could we have, like on the ad valorem tax, what we think it's going to be on a monthly basis rather than annualized?
Well, yeah, we can look at that, whether or not we should. I don't think we're very good at, we're not very good at budgeting month to month. When a bill comes in, we pay the bill.
No, I didn't mean on the expense side. I meant on the income side.
What is our budget due? June 30th? If I remember correctly?
It's a September 30th budget, and it has to be into the tax office by, I think it's November 1st. Is that right, John or Daniel?
You have to adopt the budget before the fiscal year, so it has to be adopted before October 1st.
Yeah,
No,
right.
I may be thinking about the year-over-year audits due by June 1 or something. So
Yeah.
Daniel, why don't we do a workshop like 60 days before October 1, which would be what, July or August? And we could talk about this as we're putting the budget together. Let's just pencil in a workshop so we can all sit down and talk about it.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Well, we're on the budget. Do you want to go over the budget amendment?
Daniel, you want to speak?
Yes, we can go over the amended budget. Jason, please.
At the last meeting, we had talked about adjusting parking revenue. So we decided for the time being to amend the budget by half of the parking revenue and the expenses associated with the parking lot. Until we have the parking lot open and see how it's doing, we thought that was a good starting point. May need to adjust it further after we see how it actually performs. We also adjusted the grant revenue income line to reflect the money that was received in January. Are you able to, is someone able to put that on the screen? The amended budget, because it needs to be voted on.
Daniel or John?
Sorry, mine actually cut out, so I didn't catch the question on that.
The amended budget.
Can
can
we
all
put
look at
that
it
on
and
the
talk through it.
screen?
Oh. John, do you have that up or do you need me to share it?
Capital budgets fund is what we're looking for.
Mhm. I'll share it real quick, 1 second.
And keep in mind, we not only cut the revenue by half, but also our expenses are way down. So the actual hit to our financials isn't as bleak as it would appear.
Are y'all seeing?
Well, as long as the expense cut's real.
Yeah, well, people aren't working, so we're not paying any parking attendance, and we're not doing porta potties once a week.
Right, just between Back Bay and the porta potties is 13,000 a month. That's not going out.
So tell me, can we start from the top on the grant income, the $5 million? 500, we've got 5,200,000 more income than, oops. In the amended budget. Can you tell me what that is again? I think you said, but I'm not sure.
Reimbursement on the project from the county. It was received in January.
And we didn't know that to put it in the budget in 22, 23.
We didn't know when it was gonna happen, so we kind of straight lined it, because you don't know.
Okay.
Where's that straight line though?
Well, the 180,000 from the local was what we budgeted for.
Oh, I read that as a full year 180.
Yeah, it says full year 180.
Right, that's the reimbursement grant. So, or
The 180
the one that-
EDC reimbursement grant, whereas the 5.2 million came from the county based off the renourishment. We anticipated that to be in the last fiscal year, so we received payment on it months after the fiscal year ended.
Okay, so really quickly, the 180 is what again?
It's a TDC reimbursement grant based off of beach parking lot maintenance.
All right, so we budgeted that and we've received it, correct?
We have not received that one as of yet.
Oh, the reason I asked is because I thought I heard the 5.2 from the local grant was 5.2 million. And just oddly enough, the difference between the 5.2 and the 5.380 is the 180.
But this is a budget. This is
Thank
budget.
you. Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
Okay. And so what we did is we increased the budget by 5.2 because we had revenues moving forward, basically. Timing. Got it.
Yeah, this is a cash basis rather than accrual basis.
Okay, so parking's cut in half.
Okay.
Did anybody add up? So Daniel, I guess we'll talk a little bit about parking right now. When did we budget it coming back? March? April?
I believe March is the safe bet to anticipate that. There are a number of improvements that still have to be made to the parking lot. I know that Parks and Recreation is currently removing much of the sand. They should be almost concluded with that. But we still, once that sand is out there, we have to replace all the signage. We have to put the porta potties back in, trash bins, bike racks, and there's also that large wooden retaining wall was blown out during the storm, so I'm not sure. That might be
Okay,
a project we have to take on.
let me ask my question in a different way. Did we actually say, we seriously, honestly think best case scenarios, we're gonna open this month? And therefore the revenues going forward will be this and the expenses associated with those months being open will be this? Or did we just say, let's just cut it in half?
It was just cut in half. We don't have a timeline for that. We're trying best effort to get it open as soon as possible.
Or I really think we should go look at history and say, April 1 through September, we've last 3 years averaged X amount in parking, and that's what we're with an increase plan. This is what we're suspecting from April through September of 2023, and then just layer in 5 or 6 months worth of normal expenses. You may be right on, I don't know.
Okay.
But that 360 may be 580.
Right.
Most of your,
I think
No,
as soon as our parking lot is open, it is going to be packed every day. Because they don't know where else to go.
but you still have to account for the fact that it's closed for 6 months.
no, I agree.
So,
So for 6 months, we had no revenue. We had budgeted for X amount. We're going to get half of that. In other words, we're saying we were closed for 6 months, so we had no revenue during that period. So what the revenue we're dealing with is 6 months worth of revenue rather than 12 months.
No, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, Dick, but the reality is the first 6 months, October, November, December, January, February, March, other than February and March, are kind of the slowest months of the year for parking.
Well,
it's interesting.
not necessarily. I mean, you have a lot of use of that during that 6 month period.
All right, hey Daniel, we can move on.
I know we can look at that closer to try to tune that in a little bit more, but I would definitely rather lowball that number than overestimate that number.
I would just rather we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change I'm not going to suggest we change the amended budget, but I would go back, Daniel, and just look at the last couple of years of September through March and just
Those are the hot.
shoot us an email.
In March through September, look at the two numbers.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the engagement letter for,
Oh, hold on, don't we have to vote to approve the amended
Can we,
budget?
yeah, can we see that? I just want to look through the bottom part. I'm slow.
But we do have to call a vote.
And the yellow parts are things that have changed, right?
yes,
And so the other numbers, you're saying you cut those all in half and there's nothing else that changed besides that?
correct.
Okay,
Scroll down.
well, just a minute. You've got a different number, don't mind me, you've got 115 for portable toilets and then 60 grand for the other one.
They raised the prices per month since the original budget was adopted, so I didn't quite split that in half.
Cool.
Fair enough.
The number for the portable toilets may also change depending on the quotes that we receive when we go to put them back into the parking lot. Prices may be even more different now. We're working with different companies to get the best quote possible.
Okay.
And while we're doing that,
I want to bring up a technicality here, very important, I think. We approved a budget prior to the beginning of the fiscal year. We approved the budget. It turns out we're not going to make the budget, but I don't think we should have the CEPD voting to approve the amended budget. I think it can be in the minutes that it was discussed, and in the minutes it was discussed that we were not going to hit our original budget. But I'd be very uncomfortable technically having the CEPD approving an amended budget because
Why, Dick? I don't understand.
Actually, I agree with Dick. The more I think about it, I think you're right. The budget's the budget. You do what you did. and you
Right.
do it and you make your best guesses. But we certainly need to, I agree 100% with you, the more I think about it. I think we certainly need to reflect the changes so history is very clear what happened.
Yeah, I think we should discuss, I think we should make a comment in the minutes of this particular meeting that we, as usual, reviewed the monthly budget. And then there was a discussion that we were not going to make the budget. And we have a discussion suggesting that we're going to be X amount short. Whichever that number was, I
Well-
think it was $100,000 short.
Okay. Well, then though, when we look at our other financial statements and it I would like to see the comparison to what we think it's supposed to be now rather than the original or the comparison to both.
Yeah, we could put that in the minutes that we discussed it.
And we can
No,
discuss
I'm-
it each month when we go over financials.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I just think we should have it be easy to tell if we're close, where we are versus the amended budget versus the original budget.
and the reason I bring that up is that there was a legal action where we approved the budget and the tax commissioner figured out, what kind of a tax to ask for. And that when that estimate of revenue for all the various organizations was sent out back in, I think it was November or something like that, that reflected that 650,000 plus budget for the general fund. And
I think Dick, you're 100% right. We don't change the budget. There is no such thing as an amended budget. Let's just change the title of this to say 2022, 2023 forecast.
yeah,
Yes, okay, we're good. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. Anything else on financials? Daniel, old business?
The first item up is actually still related to Jason. We have a quote to extend the services for our accounting firm. It's been in our packet here, so I just need a vote from the board to continue to utilize WWRE as our accounting firm.
I'll move that
I'll second.
we approve WWRE as our accounting firm for the fiscal year ended June 30th. Is that right? Of 2023.
I'll second that.
Discussion? What's changed, if anything?
I don't see anything really punched out. Jason, do you have any itemized list of changes of this engagement letter?
Our fee went up by 10%.
It's still all the same services, just a 10% increase.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. All right, the next item on our agenda, I can pull it back up, is the Aptum update. Aptum is actually not present. I have a small update for the board on behalf of Aptum. And the revised vulnerability analysis was sent out to the members of the meeting. We had a meeting with Aptum at the end of last month to discuss their current vulnerability analysis. Linda Laird, myself, Carrie Schumann, and members Aptum, David Mintz and Jay Brown were in attendance. There were a number of tweaks and changes. They've sent out their first revision to that document. We have a workshop scheduled for February 23rd at 1 p.m. to discuss these changes along with the legal memo of CEPD authority to move forward with some of these projects. I noticed we got a few replies from commissioners already, so I would encourage all commissioners to attend that meeting. Linda, do you have any expansion on that meeting that you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple comments. So the one that Apton turned in first had quite a few, it would have a lot of bad data in it. We gave them extensive comments. They have done a tremendous job at revising it. It's day and night better. And I do have a set of comments. I've been reviewing the document, walking through it line by line. I'd like to go over that with Aptum, myself, or in a bigger group, but I don't want to spend everyone's time because we're getting it's a lot of detailed work. So Daniel, I think the best thing for me is to could we set up a separate thing for me to do the detailed comments? And then we can have a higher level view next week, because I think the importance on the 23rd is really our legal authority. And I think having all or most of our commissioners there and having a discuss and our attorney, et cetera, I think that is the crucial thing. And we all need to sit there and talk about that rather than the detailed things for the vulnerability assessment.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Aptum and see if I can schedule a preliminary meeting and we can coordinate
And then we
there.
can just do that and send out, this
Right.
one is so much better than the last one.
Mhm.
This is good,
Okay,
okay?
so there's the Aptum update. Is there any other questions from the commissioners?
Well, I'd like to make a comment. It's probably not the right place in the agenda, but I listened to Daniel and Aptum and Cheryl Hapke give talks on Captiva and our response to the hurricane at the National Conference, Coastal Something Conference. They did an extremely good job. And listening, my opinion was I was so proud of Captiva and our response. Listening to what other people had done, maybe we had some things easier than some other people. It's very possible, but I think the people who worked on beach renourishment should be very, very proud of themselves. I think we're not perfect, but they did a good job. And no, we didn't get hit as hard as Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach, but they protected, you all protected the island. Not all of it, I know, but comparison. Okay, but the team did a great job. That's what I'm trying to say, mostly.
You did say that. Congratulations, guys.
I'm sorry, I say again and again, maybe every time.
Daniel, next.
The next item is the Becker update. I don't know if Nick, you want to give a high level. I can also talk about some of the items as well.
Yeah, certainly I'm happy to. Although my background looks kind of dark, but forgive me for that. Anyway, thanks for letting me pop in here. As the board is well aware, the legislature is in the middle of committee weeks. There was a special session last week, but not much there that is of interest to the district. The most important development at the moment is today is the deadline for the House of Representatives to receive and formally file all of the appropriation forms. And we have confirmation from Rep. Botana's office that is happening today, or they've been doing it over the weekend. They actually called me over the weekend for some questions, but those will be filed by 5 o'clock today. And as a reminder, we submitted 4 different items through Rep. Botana's office, and we will submit the same items through Senator John Martin's office. And those are the vehicle replacement item for $36,000. Basically what we've been calling the phase 2 study at $400,000, dune walkovers at $500,000, and a beach nourishment item for $6.8 million. And that one is essentially the other half of what the legislature appropriated during the special session immediately after the hurricane in Senate Bill 4A, where they put in $100 million statewide for hurricane impacted areas. Kind of how that shook out is that funded about half of the need in the hurricane impacted areas. And in our talks with House and Senate leadership and some professional staff, in Tallahassee, they advised submitting for the other half of the money. And I think some of our other coastal communities will be doing the same. I think ideally on that one, I mean, that's important. That's a big chunk of money. I think the good thing is that the department has acknowledged in their post-storm recovery plan that it is unlikely that we're going to see federal money for that, so that the state needs to be willing and able to step in and fill that gap. So I think what will happen this session is, I think in a perfect world, they'll just do what they did during special session, is put 100 million in for the hurricane impact areas, knowing where it needs to go, as opposed to all these standalone items where Captiva has one and Sanibel has one and Fort Myers has one and Naples has one, and all the towns along the coast have these individual items competing to get across the finish line. We're going to advocate for one big pot of money where everybody knows and can kind of count on it, and you're not fighting your neighbor or competing, kind of against each other. I think that would be the best way to do it. And I think that's what we're going to advocate for. I think there's folks from Lee County on here. I spoke to their lobbyists to kind of just check in with them. They have been incredibly supportive and kind of collaborative, and reached out to help. They want us to keep them in the loop as to when we file, just so they can keep it on their radar, because they're supportive, obviously, of the region in general. But those are our items. I do want to say Daniel and Carrie and Nicole at Aptum have been amazing in getting these forms filled out. These are detailed, and Commissioner Laird has suffered through hours of these forms that can be detailed and repetitive, and you're jamming square pegs into round holes sometimes. But we got them in on time. They're complete and they're well thought out, and I like our chances. One, because they're worthwhile projects, and two, we've got two sponsors in the House and Senate that basically said, whatever you guys need, we're going after it. And that's kind of been the attitude after the hurricane. So I'm encouraged just kind of by the position we're in at the moment.
And I
That's
just
good to hear. That's good to hear.
I'd like to sort of second what Nick said, but I'd add Nick to the team, because he's provided a lot of leadership and guidance as to what's the right way to do this. So I think the team of four, shall we say, with Dan, Carrie, Nick, and Nicole it's a great team. It's working very well together, and they're doing very good work. And I'm just so, again, impressed, proud. Captiva's doing great.
Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Nick, what was the 400K again? I'm sorry, I was trying to write as your. I know
400 was for essentially what we've been calling phase 2 of the second phase of the Aptum study, and that's kind of a updated version of what we pursued this summer, and then the rug was pulled out from under us at the state level, but it's just a continuation of that. And they all projects have been kind of well received so far, and I have seen very similar projects by neighboring communities. So I think we're in good company.
Okay, the 500 again, 500K.
Dune walkovers.
Dune walkovers.
Which is I think Sanibel's going after something similar. I saw filed, and maybe another community is going after.
So the idea here is that there were washouts, breakthroughs, whatever. I don't know what the right word is. Wherever the paths went through the dunes, and so therefore, for all of the public access points, we're going to try to do a better job. Some of them, like the Andy Rossi one and the Hagrip, may need to be ADA compliant. So it's expensive, but that's the idea, is to be more protective of the beach. And Nicole also put in money to see if we can make the dunes more resilient.
Right. When you have, as I understand it, it's very clear after the storm, but if you have walkthroughs through your dunes, basically you're creating voids in the dune.
Exactly. And did you hear, this is what maybe Daniel told me, I'm not sure, but Sanibel is passing ordinances, or maybe this is Carrie, where if you're a resort of some size, not South Sea size, smaller, that you're going to only be allowed one access point to the beach to try to minimize the number of paths in. Terry, was that your?
Yeah, that was an
Who's
update.
that?
I spoke with Joel. It doesn't sound like it's size-based. I could look up the ordinance, but it seems like it's based on what they call a conforming resort. And obviously what conforming means is they're going to have some rules about what constitutes a conforming resort. So I think that'll mean as things get rebuilt, if it falls within that definition of conforming, whatever that is, that they'll be required to do to control their beach access and to use a dune walkover so that there's less likelihood of that failure.
What about all the private homes up and down Golf Drive, West Golf?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to dig in and find out more about how things are being handled on that end.
Well, and I think in my community, we have about 5 paths to the beach, which is probably at
Little
least
overkill?
3 too many, but the people who have the homes in front think they should have their own private access. So we'll see what happens.
Well, one thing I'll add about that item, the way we kind of strategically filled it out is we submitted for up to 5. So if through the planning and conversation, we only need 4, we'll use the funding for 4 or the one of them's 88, it's more expensive than the others and we can only do 3. We kind of gave ourselves flexibility in the application.
There's also one thing that needs to be considered when we're talking about the public access points for us on Captiva with dune walkovers, is that they're the only emergency access points as well. So they're going to need to be built out pretty heavy and wide.
My understanding of the walkovers is that they want to have the walkovers higher than the dune rather than lower than.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it allows the vegetation to build up and to move as needed, natural dune movement. So yeah, it'll allow higher room for that.
Yeah, the 5 parts we're talking about are at the parking lot, Whiteman, Leica, Andy Rossi, and the Johnson Curve. That's the current set.
What about all the homes on Captiva Drive that have direct access to a walkway that we
think we need to take.
put
I'm sorry.
posts up. We even put posts up and ropes so that it would be more obvious that that's an access point.
I think we have an opportunity from the CEPD in terms of protecting the beach and the island if we wanted to do something about limiting access or whatever, but I don't know anybody else who would be worrying about it other than us.
All right, moving on. FEMA loan discussion. Do we need to talk about that?
Yes, so this actually came up a topic from David Mintz, who was talking to Representative Botana regarding the FEMA possibility of a FEMA loan. And this Nick Matthews was able to put me in contact with Glenn Hammers regarding this potential loan for community disaster assistance is what it's called. Again, it's for up to $5 million and has historically been forgiven each time it's been issued. Although I do want to point out it's important that we can't predict the future and we can't assure that it would be forgiven, but there's a great potential that it would be forgiven. Currently, Glenn Hammers has received our information and is working on coordinating an assessment meeting to determine if we would qualify for this loan. So
Assessment meeting with yourself?
For now, I can include a member of the board if you'd like to designate one. Or I can handle it myself.
You can handle it yourself. I'd just like to, once you get more information, I think it would be certainly worth a workshop to walk us through it.
Absolutely.
Bob, it's also, I think, you're more into the I think it should be somebody who's more into our financials, either you or Dick. That's all.
Got it.
Okay.
Beach vehicle.
Beach
We
vehicle.
want to buy one before we get free money? Or grant, excuse me.
All right, so at last month's meeting, that we had a vote for not to exceed amount of $20,000 to purchase a new beach vehicle. But we didn't do this for two main reasons. The insurance deductible was not taken into consideration when we described the funds that were going to be utilized to purchase the vehicle. So rather than anticipating almost $10,000 from insurance, we had a $10,000 deductible taken off of our insurance. So we only received really $1,000 for our beach vehicle. We still have a grant from the TDC of $10,000 towards the new vehicle, the $1,000 from insurance. And now the potential of the appropriations grant that we just described for $36,000. So the second reason is the $20,000 was not quite a high enough amount to purchase a vehicle with all the features that we would like to have and we would benefit from. So for this board meeting, I'd like to ask the board to approve an expenditure of not to exceed $30,000 for a beach vehicle.
How much are they? Seriously, have you costed them out?
I got a quote for one that's, it's got the 2 rows of seats. It's actually also got a winch on the front of it. So if we get a large piece of debris or something, we can pull it out of the sand. It was $25,000.
Why are we asking for 30? How much are we asking for in the grant?
$36,000.
Why are we asking for more than what it's going to cost?
Well, I was asking for a not to exceed of 30 because if it costs 25 and there's an unexpected expense, I don't want to come back to the board.
No. That's
He's
not what
referring
I'm
to the 36,000 that we're asking, the appropriation.
We can probably actually get additional items like a trailer to remove the beach vehicle in the event of another storm or other items. So we're not going to put back in the same situation, but for the purposes of just the beach vehicle at this point, that's what I would utilize.
We need a vehicle, simple as that, right?
Yep.
And we need a correct vehicle because I think the last one we bought probably didn't meet our needs. So do I hear a motion to approve or, yeah?
I
motion
so
to-
move.
I'll
I'll
second.
second. All right, Mr. Silva, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor or passes unanimously. So the next item on our discussion was the parking lot, but I don't know if we already satisfied that. Is there any additional questions?
Nope, just keep pushing.
All right. Will do.
Yeah, get it open.
Yeah.
I am absolutely trying. The next item.
Is there anything you want from any of us to help you?
No, it's really, once I get that cleared out, I'm gonna seek out quotes to return the signs and other items.
Okay. Do you have employees lined up or you're going to do that once you have a,
We'll seek out the employees once we have a firm date. I don't wanna.
right, okay.
No date.
Seriously, Daniel, though, let's lean into this because we got to get that open sooner than later to start recouping some of these losses.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Mhm. Okay, and the next.
We're actually at the waiting for Lee County to finish their project, right?
We're waiting on them to remove the remainder of the sand and
Right.
debris from that retaining wall.
So we're at the mercy of Lee County, but they seem to be getting it done.
Yes,
Daniel, let us know if you need some help.
I will.
All right. New business?
We still have one item left in old business, which is the.
Oh, I'm
beach
sorry.
tilling. So every year we're required to perform beach tilling prior to the start of sea turtle nesting season. I've actually reached out and received a quote from Perry's Beach Service to perform this required beach tilling.
Beach
have-
tilling?
Yes.
Tilling? Okay,
Yes, so it's a couple day project where they take tractors up and down the beach and loosen up the sand to allow the sea turtles to nest properly. In pursuant to that quote, I'd like to ask the board to approve an expenditure for me to contract with them for not to exceed $20,000. We actually have $30,000 in the budget, so we're coming in under budget on this one.
So
Okay. I second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. And that's it for old business. I don't believe we have any new business. Which brings us to the admin update. Just gonna talk about the FSBPA a little bit. We touched on it already. It was a really great time, presented by Nicole Wednesday afternoon, which is, I think, the best way possible to kick off the rest of the conference. Having us up on stage sparked a lot of different conversations, which in my opinion are the most valuable thing gained out of the conference, even more so than the presentations themselves.
Yeah, a quick question. Do we know if that conference was recorded? And can we go somewhere to kind of watch the presentation?
It wasn't recorded, but they will be posting the presentations that we have access to. So once we have access to them, I'll distribute them to the board so you can look over them.
Thank you.
And Linda's already kind of said her piece about the discussion, but I just also, the relationship that you build at that conference is so worth it. And I can't wait till the non-technical conference this fall. The other item on,
Hey, there's a lot to be learned, and I can guarantee you now, after what we went through with Ian again, and with Charlie before, but Ian again, there's a lot of people out there in counties that are seeking your guidance and advice too.
So the other item I wanted to talk about, and we sent out a beach brief regarding this, but we also have a link on our website. The FDEP has a hurricane restoration reimbursement grants portal open. This is an item for private homeowners. It's also known as Senate Bill 4A. And it's to submit reimbursement towards projects for coastal armoring on private property. It requires a 50-50 match. So it's not necessarily for, on Captiva, it's not necessarily for the beach side of it because the CEPD will be handling that. So it's not on private property, but probably any like bayside projects for coastal armoring that people want to submit for. We do have a link to that on our website.
It's really important that we all understand that, because I know I've gotten a couple questions about it from South Fleet homeowners on the beach.
So I have the frequently asked questions page on there, as well as I believe if there's any questions above my head, I can refer them to Kelly Kramer. I know Carrie may know a little bit about it, but I think we're all still kind of learning on that.
Yeah, Daniel had asked me to look a little bit more into it, so I'm gonna try and just find out more info. Because the couple things I'll just say that we might want to have on our radar is that some of the concerns that have been brought up by other legislators and some of the conversation around this program is there's a little concern that people might put up hardened structure on their property that does end up causing flooding issues for adjacent properties. You know, I know we're a little concerned about how this might influence, again, depends on how many people do this. If there's anything that happens on the beach side, will this influence sea turtle nesting, shorebird nesting? But I think there's a lot of questions on what this really covered and how it would be enacted. I'm going to try and find out a few more details for Daniel on what's really covered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it for my administrative update, which would bring us to commissioner comments.
Real quick, Daniel, on chat, I see there's a question. Consider some trailer. Some Carrie.
Oh, I
guess that's
that already when we had talked about the $36,000 grant. Yeah.
I wrote it at the same time he brought it up. It was just to say
Sorry.
that we took that into consideration for the amount.
Commissioner Laird, anything additional?
No, I think people are doing a grand job.
And this is John, and I will second Linda's comments. And I will also say that Linda herself is doing a grand job. Thank
Oh,
you.
well, thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
I can feel the love. I like it. Commissioner Pyle, anything?
Just one comment. When we finally are settled back into normal life on Captiva, I want to make sure that people know it's my understanding that looking at what happened during the beach renourishment, that it was a success. Now, am I the only one who feels that way, or can we really tout the fact that beach renourishment does make a difference?
I
And
think we absolutely should PR that. And we
Yeah.
talked about that in the early days, but that's a very good point. We need
yeah,
to,
we're far enough along. We're far enough along now that I think we can definitely see that it made a difference. And any property owners on Captiva who don't think it made a difference, we should be reaching out to those people and doing a little education or re-education.
I'm playing around with an idea that I'm going to be working on. I'm trying to pull together the information on the hurricane, where it includes from a resilience point of view and to what happened in the hurricane and what were the results and what did we learn. And I've been talking to a few people about it. I'm not very far at all, shall we say, but I think that, and then getting in front of the public. We need to get in front of the public. So I think we've got a good story to tell. I could use help trying to figure out how exactly to do this, but I think it's a real good thing to do.
I think I will follow on Richard's comment that, yes, the overwhelming number of people here that I have spoken to, and I am here full-time on Captiva, believe the beach renourishment did a great job in protecting the property and the land for Captiva. I think along with Dan, probably the biggest challenges we had is having people understand what they can and cannot do with the extra sand, what we can or cannot do with removal of items, again, rubbish, and again, landscaping. What are the parameters that CEPD actually can operate under, and who is responsible for removing a lot of sand and rubbish and landscaping. I think it was the follow-ons to the hurricane that I think presented the biggest issues with the residents that I have spoken with. I think the beach renourishment was quite successful, as I guess Richard Pyle, Dick Pyle feels the same.
I agree.
Mhm.
All right, anything else? I have nothing to add. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Hi,
All
Aye,
right,
thanks. Good meeting you guys.
thank you all.
excellent meeting. Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.